Hello everyone, welcome to episode 30 of Conversing on Africa's Peace, a podcast focused on the African Union's Peace and Security Council and key-related issues, produced by Amani Africa Media and Research Services. This episode, we are breaking down the provisional program of work of May 2025 of the Peace and Security Council. My name is Previn Habu, and I'm joined by my colleague, Fikr Getachew. Hello, Fikr.
Hi, Previn.
Good. So Sierra Leone has taken over the role of chairing the Peace and Security Council for the month of May. It is a packed month for the PSC with 5 major sessions and a field mission to the Republic of Guinea, as well as the induction of the newly elected members of the Military Staff Committee. But as usual, before we delve into unpacking the program of work for March, why don't we briefly reflect on PSC's engagement during the previous month, April, and capture some of the highlights and major insights and changes introduced to the program over the month. Fikr, could you take us through?
Sure thing. So April kicked off with the ceremonial Flag Day installation to welcome the incoming members of the Peace and Security Council, which are Nigeria, Eswatini, Cameroon, and Ethiopia. They officially took their seats for a 3-year term following their election during the 38th AU Summit back in February. Towards the end of the month, Algeria also joined the council representing the North African region, following its election during the Executive Council's extraordinary session on mid-April, and its flag installation was held on the 28th of April. On the substantive side, the Council began the month with a session marking the International Day of Mine Awareness and Assistance in Mine Action, underscoring the long-standing impacts of landmines on peace and security in Africa. Another significant session was the open session on hate crimes and the fight against genocidal ideology in Africa, which was held in connection with the 31st anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda on the 2nd of April. This served as a reminder of the ongoing need to confront hate and uphold the AU's principles of non-indifference. The PSC also held its 4th annual consultative meeting with the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, from April 7th to 9th in Joburg, South Africa, which is an important step in strengthening the link between governance and peace and security. AUSSOM, the African Union's new mission in Somalia, was a central focus on the Council last month. 2 sessions were dedicated to assessing the status of its operation, including the one that took place before and another one after the summit of the troop contributing countries on the 11th and 29th of April, respectively. The Council also convened a session on the Combined Maritime Task Force on 23rd April, emphasizing the urgency of coordinated response to piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. In parallel to these ambassadorial level meetings, the Committee of Experts of the Council was also active. They met to prepare for the APRM consultation and later held their induction program from April 28th to the 30th. Preparing new members for their crucial work supporting the Council. So all in all, the Council was quite active in April.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that look back, Fikr. Looking ahead, as I mentioned earlier, we are expecting 5 substantive agenda items to be considered by the Council. The first meeting will be held on May 7th, where the PSC will be expected to hold a comprehensive session on the AU's support to security sector reform, or SSR, in 5 key member states, that is the Gambia, Lesotho, Madagascar, Mali, and South Sudan. What is interesting here is that the last time the PSC seriously reviewed SSR was back in its 844th session, which focused on the Gambia. So this is overdue. Take the Gambia, for instance. They have been a kind of SSR test case. Since 2017, they have had a full needs assessment, an AU support team, and multiple rounds of technical support. The AU even helped align their strategy with its broader monitoring and evaluation frameworks in late 2024. Lesotho saw capacity building focused on training and national ownership. In Mali, Sahel provided institutional support linked to their national SSR strategy. South Sudan, on the other hand, had consultants deployed to guide post-conflict reform, particularly addressing intercommunal violence and arms management. Therefore, this session is not just a check-in, it is also about drawing out lessons and best practices for other high risks post-conflict states.
Moving on the 12th of May, the PSC will have a meeting on addressing food insecurity as a driver of conflict in Africa. This session will zero in on the intersection between food insecurity and conflict. The PSC has previously talked about food insecurity, especially in the context of humanitarian crisis, but this session is going to dig deeper into how conflict causes food shortage and vice versa. It builds on the 1083rd session the Council held back in 2022, where they highlighted how war disrupts agriculture, food access, and even uses hunger as a weapon, something that's tragically playing out in Sudan right now. According to the World Bank, 25 million people in Sudan and 6.3 million in South Sudan and 3.4 million in Somalia are currently facing acute food insecurity. And the PSC aims to follow up on recommendations for improving food production and better integrating peace building with humanitarian and development responses.
The third session of the month will be on 14th of May, and the focus shifts to the Sahel and the growing threat of transnational organized crime. This session builds on the PSC's previous work from its 845th and 1082nd sessions. So here's the deal. In the Sahel, organized crime is not just about trafficking. It funds armed groups and competes over illicit markets. At the same time, it is a livelihood source for many in economically deprived areas. And so it makes it a complex dynamic. The new alliance of Sahel states, which is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, is trying to tackle terrorism, but their ECOWAS exit and the G5 Sahel collapse have made coordination even harder. This session, therefore, is about recalibrating AU policy, putting equal weight on crime and terror, pushing for databases of suspects, and rethinking suspension policies to help reach vulnerable populations. A continental response with real teeth is overdue.
Then on the 16th of May, the PSC will meet with the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council in Addis. This is going to be the second annual joint consultative meeting after the inaugural one took place in Abuja last year. It's expected that the two bodies will assess how far they've come since last year, especially in revitalizing security frameworks and ensuring joint counter-terrorism efforts and working on the ground. What is also critical is the operational side. So I think it would be important for them to see if these frameworks can actually translate into real-time cooperations against the growing instability in the region. And also, on the same day, the PSC will commemorate the International Day of Living Together in Peace.
Finally, on May 19th, it's all about Gabon. This is the only PSC's second session on Gabon since the coup in 2024 and the elections held this April in the country. So General Brice Oligui Nguema, the coup leader, won the elections. And now the PSC has to determine whether Gabon's back to constitutional order and if the AU suspension should be lifted. This is a high-stake session. It's not just about Gabon, but what kind of president the AU sets for coups, elections, and post-coup transitions.
After the program of work for May was released, during the last day of the month in April, the PSC also had a session to consider the political situation in Gabon and had already decided to lift the suspension of Gabon. The last important thing the PSC has planned for May is a field visit to the Republic of Guinea, which will take place at the end of the month. The field mission is expected to help the PSC ground its decision in real context and seeing firsthand the security and political landscape in Guinea. Indicated at the footnote of the program of work, there's also potential engagement with the AU Commission chairperson that's envisaged. However, this has not happened since 2019. So if it does happen, the engagement with the AUC chairperson could be significant.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of another episode. From food insecurity to SSR to the politics of post-coup transitions. There's quite a lot to unpack. We wish Sierra Leone a very fruitful month as it takes the chairship of May 2025. And we wish everyone taking part in the work of the Peace and Security Council productive discussions on the important topics outlined briefly here today. We are happy to encourage our listeners to dig deeper into the PSC's agenda as well as the analytical work that we produce. Before we go, as usual, we'd like to wish Eritrea a happy National Day as it will celebrate its Independence Day on May 24th. Let me also thank our listeners for joining us for this month's edition of Conversing on Africa's Peace podcast. We hope you have a great month. We'll be back next month to consider the PSC's agenda for June 2025. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged.